This is Top Shop Podcast.
Shop Podcast.
Top Shop Podcast.
Podcast for automotive service business owners by Paul Donahue.
Hey everybody, welcome to another Top Shop Podcast. We got a great guest, John Philbrook. He is the senior sales manager at a company called Midtronics. Now, if you auto repair shop owners have not heard of Midtronics and you test batteries, then this is going to be a really good podcast for you guys. Midtronics has just come out with their MBT, which is their Ferrari of battery testers. Okay, so just like any other company that's really focused on creating a better product, a better mousetrap, Midtronics has been working on this for a long time. John's been in the industry 35 years, and he's been with Midtronics for 22. So he knows a little bit about battery testing and how this can help your auto repair shop, especially in speed. From what I understand, John, one of these newer products, it really helps with the time it takes to get the job done, correct?
That's right, Paul. Some of our things, we've been in the industry now for over 40 years doing
40.
battery testing, over 40 years. Yeah. So we started, it's a technology that was developed by Motorola. Like a lot of companies, they don't sometimes know exactly what to do with their technology and the customer. So our CEO and founder, Steve McShane, was working for Motorola at the time. And they asked him if he wanted to try and do something with this technology. And with the original inventor, started to develop it and refine it a little bit. It was such a unique technology at the time because everything was these big load testers, everything else that you take out. And this technology is so consistent because what we do is we send a signal wave through the battery itself, and we actually look at how that signal wave goes through. And any place that the plate has a problem or is dead or decayed or sulfated, as that signal goes through, it changes, okay, as it goes through. And that gives us a picture of how good the plate is or the conductance of the battery. And so by injecting that signal, and it's always constant, whereas the load testers at the time, right, you always had to worry about voltage of the battery. You always had to worry about how long you held the dial or whether or not your carbon pile was working. And this technology kind of just revolutionized everything because of its consistency. It's kind of like a fluke meter. You take it out, right? It always sends the same thing out. It never changes. So the only thing that can change is your connection on the top, and that's about it. So the consistency of it is phenomenal. And we've refined it over the years. And part of that, is the development of AI and development of other things where this tester, we call it MBT, AI, but the AI stands for not only Midtronics, but also, the experience. So Midtronics MD, and then the X stands for our experience, expertise, and then the AI is our applied innovation. So what you were talking about earlier about taking all those learnings from 40 years, right, that
Right.
we have out there and applying it to a new tool to address the issues that we see in the field. So we use machine learning, which includes AI, to take all of our data, everything else that's in there, and mainly to streamline the test process. The whole idea with folks today is when you go out to test a vehicle, the biggest issue is charge and retest, or it's putting all the information in, right? Can you see the battery? Can you get it? And many times it's shrouded or you can't even get there. Maybe a remote post. Well, with the AI that we have now in this and the machine learning, what we've done is be able to condense this where now when you connect up, okay, to it, in many cases, you'll get a result within 2 seconds coming right back.
Wow.
There's no entry needed by the user on most of the batteries tested in a vehicle today. It knows just by looking at the vehicle, by looking at the battery, and what we're getting back from that, whether or not the battery is good or bad. Now, from that, then that solves this huge labor issue, right? That we have, how much time it takes to test a battery, right? Because now
Right.
you can connect and I mean, the tool is great, a very nice color screen tool. It has your two clamps on it to connect up. And when you turn it on, everything else, really nice. You can see the AI pop up, some other things that are on there. And it's very easy to use. In addition to that, it does a full system test on the vehicle within 15 seconds. So not only can it test the battery, but it can go on and also provide information on whether or not you have an alternator issue or something else that may be in the car. A lot of times folks come in for a battery and then they reappear again a week later, and it
Right.
wasn't really the battery, it was an alternator that killed the battery.
Right. Yeah.
And so
I've had
this
that
tool,
happen.
yeah, and this tool can also do that for you. But The whole thing about it is taking that learning, applying it to this tool, and now making it very easy for the majority of people to use. Now, if a battery may be marginal in this area, the tool may ask for some additional information. So, if we're on a borderline or something, then it may ask you to put a CCA in or something else on there to get a more refined answer, or ask you about temperature. But generally, most of the results you'll get will be instantaneous. And then further, if the battery is really discharged, okay, when it comes in, it may ask you to start the vehicle and just go ahead, start it, and follow the prompts that are on it. But instead of having to go get a recharger, having to charge up a battery, do everything, it'll actually walk you right through and in 5 minutes or less give you a result on that battery. So, the vast majority are going to be within 2 seconds. If we don't get that, we're going to tell you to start the car. You may get an immediate answer from there. If not, if really discharged, we may allow the car to run for just a little bit to put some energy into the battery to be able to determine whether it's good or bad. So
Okay.
it really just streamlines the whole process, for shops. And the other part that we talked about too is that, in today's world, with the vehicle systems now having link controlled alternators, everything else, right, for fuel savings or a start stop, most of the batteries you see coming through a service bay are no longer fully charged. They're partial states of charge. So they
Mhm.
can be now, 11.9, 12.1, and it's that dreaded charge and retest, right, that keeps coming up, that drives you crazy on a drive lane when you're testing a customer's vehicle, and the result you get is charge and retest. What do you tell the customer?
Right.
Yeah, here, let me go back, charge your they came in for an oil change and we're charging a battery, and this is why this tool is so impressive for these service groups, because again, it just streamlines the whole process and reduces the charge and retest. I think we're down to about 1% charge and retest or less with
One.
this tool.
So what,
Yeah, so it's
are there any national companies, franchises using this tool?
so the tool is just out right now. It
Oh,
releases in
okay.
July. We've run, yeah.
Oh,
So the
oh,
betas are going on. Yep. So
okay.
it's coming out. The betas are going on right now with some of the larger groups with some great success there. So we expect it to be a very strong seller when it gets to the aftermarket.
Okay. So this is your latest model, this MBT model, but
It is.
Midtronics products are used by what companies?
So we're used by most major OEMs that are out there and most major retailers that are out there. So if you go into a Walmart, a Sam's Club, folks like that, you'll
Yeah.
see our tools being used. Vance Auto,
Oh, Dick
others.
Auto, okay.
Yeah.
Go all them places, okay. Yeah,
Yep. Yeah. And
so,
you'll probably see some of this newer technology that we have starting to be embedded in some of our equipment and tools that are out there now.
how do people connect with your company to, like, either get a demo or, is there, like, if I buy one of these things, I own a shop and I buy one, is there any kind of, like,
Sure.
30-day trial thing, or can you give us some info on that, or?
There isn't, but I mean, if you're a larger group or anything else, you can contact Midtronics and you can call us at our regular 1-800 phone number that we have on here, and
Okay,
I will get that for you here.
sure, yeah,
It's 800
uh-huh,
776
uh-huh,
1995.
okay,
Okay. You can also follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, um, on there, and contact us through one of those, or you can contact me directly if you'd like, and I'll be glad to help out. And um, my address is jphilbrook, and it's PHILBROOK at midtronics.com.
okay, awesome. Hey, John, what's the biggest advantage a retail shop is gonna
Yeah,
see by utilizing this specific tool?
sure. And Paul, this solves a lot of issues that are out there now. The biggest thing is speed, right?
Well,
And it's
time's
just
money.
time. Time is money, right? The biggest thing with a customer, right, is time too.
Give me old tech and new tech. So old tech takes how long? MVT, how long?
Sure. Old tech could take a minute to minute and a half, somewhere in that time frame. So 60 to 90 seconds, right, to do a test on a battery. New tech is 2 seconds. There may be situations where I'll ask you additional information. Okay, that'll take you another 10 seconds maybe to put it in, or turn the key of the vehicle to start it. Okay, if it asks you to do that. And again, those are exceptions to the rule, not the norm. And in those cases, whereas before, if you were to get a battery, let's say that came in and the answer was charge and retest, what do you do? And that's where I said, now you've got to take it back, try and charge the battery for a period of time. Okay. And then retest the battery for the customer.
Right.
And that can take, an hour or so in the back. And, we're condensing that down to 5 minutes or less.
Okay. Wow. All right. So
Yeah.
that's
So
the
it's,
advantages is speed. Okay. What else?
yeah. Second thing is it's the only way that a customer knows that their battery needs to be replaced in the car. If you think about what's happened in the marketplace today, right, with the cars now have electronic ignition, fuel system, high pressure fuel systems, right? When I turn that key in a car, it's a 1 second start. It's boom. I can no longer hear a weak battery. Years ago, we could hear the wah, wah,
Oh,
wah,
yeah,
wah,
yeah,
wah.
yeah, 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 yeah. 72 Cougar was my first car. And back then, if
Yeah.
the battery was starting to go low, you knew it. All right.
Today, that's 7/10 of a second. So with 7/10 of a second, the other part you have, right, is you have the computerization of the vehicles now. So there's a whole starting sequence that car is going through. As you walk out with your key fob, right, it already senses or spots its key fob coming to you, right? As you go to that car's going through a whole startup sequence. Yep. It's pressurizing the fuel system, right? It's charging the coils. It's going through that start process so that when you go in to hit that, right, it needs the car to fire right away. So for the emissions, for everything else, right? That's the emission savings. That's some of the other things. When I go to do that, now the car is checking through those systems, right? If I have a weak battery and it throws a DTC because my fuel rail isn't getting up to pressure, when I go hit that button, I go turn that key, I get crickets. There's no warning whatsoever. It
Right.
shuts off the starting system.
Yeah.
So that's why these little jumper packs work out there.
Mhm.
That's because all I'm doing is fooling the computer system to get it over that hurdle, right? I'm giving just enough energy to get the fuel rail up or the coil charge, right? To allow there not to be a DTC so I can actually start the vehicle. Okay. You don't think it cranks the whole car all the time, right? With one of these
Right.
little
Right.
boxes, right? So this is the biggest thing. And what on the edge of the road today, you see AAA out selling batteries out of light, what they call light service vehicles, right?
Right.
That market never existed 25 years ago or 20 years ago.
Right.
This is a whole new marketplace because of this phenomena of not understanding where the battery is in
Right.
its life.
Okay, so I bring a car in for an oil change or whatever. So is
Yeah,
it customary for the shop to go ahead and check the other systems to make sure everything's working great? Will this alert them that, hey, the battery's about to take a crap?
absolutely. It's a check, no different really than if your car has oil in it, right?
Sure.
Or anything else, right? Or whether your car has wiper fluid in it, right? All of these things contribute or could contribute to a problem later on. So doing a safety check, checking the tires, right? Same thing.
Yeah.
If your battery's poor, right? And you don't know that it's poor, right? It can leave you
And
stranded.
so now the auto repair shop owner can explain this to the consumer and say, it's up to you. You can change it now, or it is going to die on you, like
Sure.
whenever,
Yep.
with no warning. So,
Right, right. Just like anything else too, right? If you're, let's say you have a wobble in your tire and you're not fixing it, right? Well, that can lead to other problems with your vehicle, right? From the vibrations and other
yep.
things. Well, if I have a weak battery and I continue to drive on that battery, I'm working that charging system. I'm working the components much harder
Mhm.
than
Mhm.
they normally would also. And when you compare the cost of an alternator versus the cost of a battery, right? That gets pretty expensive.
Right.
And so by ensuring that we're not overworking those components where they heat up, and die earlier than they should because they're constantly charging a battery every time, that can be savings also. The other part is typically on the cars today, they're, you know, and this is the part that I really like about the tester is typically when it'll tell you that the battery's a replaced battery, all the shop has to do is ask the customer if they've seen any noticeable changes in their car. Like, for example, when they start their car in the morning, it idles higher. Well, it's idling higher because the battery's weak and it's trying to charge the battery, so it increases the RPM. Where normally the car would idle at 700, it's now, revving up a little bit more in the morning. They're like, yeah, I did notice my car starts. It's a higher RPM. Or if I'm pulling up to stoplights, right? If I have a start stop, Normally the car would be stopping at every single light, right? The engine would shut down. Well, now it's doing it every other light, or now it's doing it every third light instead of each and every time. That's also a sign that the battery's starting to get weak. It can't shut down everything if the battery is too low in a state of charge. And usually the owner of the vehicle will start to notice these small little changes. Yeah, it could also be that their fuel mileage isn't quite as good. Instead of getting, let's say, 30 miles, they're getting 28 miles to the gallon or 27 miles to the gallon. Instead of filling up every Friday, they're filling up. Now they have to fill up on a Thursday sometimes.
Hmm.
They're not making it. So when you ask them, when you see this result come and you start to have this conversation with them, these are the parts. You go, yeah, you know, there's no warning anymore in these vehicles. When the battery,
When the battery
yeah,
goes, it goes. You can be
it
anywhere.
goes. Yep, and you're just going to hit a button and nothing will happen. So,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
and this is, you know, a lot of people don't think about all these changes that have occurred, right? Now is the time, even more than 15 years ago, to be testing every battery in every vehicle coming through.
Okay. So
Yeah.
no matter what they bring the car in for, brought it in for alignment, you do a quick check on the car.
And we've made it fast enough and easy enough now that you know it's a no-brainer. It's not something that someone has to spend a lot of time with. You could give it to someone that's doing the check-in. You give it to the inspection person. They can do it very, very quickly.
Right. I mean, so as soon as they as soon as they put both connectors on, you can't even get your finger back to the button until
It's starting the process. Yep.
it's
Yep.
the process, right? So,
Yeah.
John, you and I met at the MAP conference in Missouri. Let's give a quick plug for Jeff Cox at AMRA. A lot of auto repair shops owners still not have not heard of MAP, Motorist Assurance Program. It's motorist. Everybody out there, it's motorist.org.
Yeah.
For less than the cost of a lunch a month, you can put that badge on your website. We are a motorist assurance program shop. And
Yep.
then, and motorist assurance program has set thousands of guidelines for all sorts of parts. So you can go to the
That's correct.
consumer and say, it's not us saying that this part needs replaced, it's the motorist assurance program. And
Correct.
they've worked with the manufacturers to come up with the guidelines for all of these various parts. How has motorist assurance program, been beneficial to Midtronics?
Well, we've been a member almost since the very beginning
Oh, no
of
kidding.
it. Yeah.
Really? Oh, okay.
So it's a wonderful group. Um, you know, consumers can rest assured, and we're affiliated with them because, again, you're giving trustworthy advice, right? You're giving that information that, you know, the recommendation. And, you know, the consumer is free to do what they want to do, but they're guaranteed they're getting information that's correct, you know.
Right, yeah. So if you
Yeah.
guys haven't heard of Motor Insurance Program, go to AMRA, AMRA.org, and sign up. And
Yeah.
then get in touch with your digital marketing agency, ask them to put that map and AMRA logo, both of them, on your website. These are trust badges that subconsciously signal that I should trust your shop more than this other shop. It's subconscious, but believe me, it works. We've tested it. We know. So, hey, the biggest advantage, of course, is our speed, being able to help the consumer not get stuck someplace.
Yeah.
No matter what they bring the vehicle forward, they can throw this on just real quick just to check to see what's going on. In order to purchase the product, they need to purchase it directly from Midtronics, correct?
No, we actually work through distribution
Oh,
on
you
that.
work with distribution. Oh, I'm
Yep,
sorry.
work
Yes.
through
And how does this
distribution,
work?
right? We do sell to larger national accounts direct, but typically through distribution. So battery distribution, um, larger parts distribution groups that are out there. You
Okay,
can
all right.
typically
So I
find
can
it.
go to
Yeah.
Interstate Batteries or Advanced Auto Care or one
You
of
can,
those.
yep, and you can go right on the web and just you'll find it there and select, you know, the person you feel comfortable with, distributor or whoever you feel comfortable with to purchase the tool from.
Okay, all right, awesome.
Yeah. Paul, one of the other things that you know, we were talking about in here too was the tool is only as good as what's in it. And it's really that 40 years, right,
Right.
of experience that we have, the algorithms, the know-how. And where we've gone with this isn't like reverse engineering stuff or anything else. This is cutting edge technology. It really is going to help both the consumer and both the shops out there to really test as many batteries as quickly as possible, like get them out and give the warnings to the customers that need to have. It should be time now to replace your battery.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is that it's going to pay for itself just in speed, ease of use, and helping to sell more batteries, and protecting the consumer from getting stuck. So we're in
Right.
vacation season right now. So people jump in the car, they don't know the battery's about to take a dump, and they're 300 miles from home. Now you're going to get stuck going to a repair shop that you're not familiar with.
A tow charge, or having a tow truck come.
With it. So yes,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
shop is doing a real service to the consumer by making sure that before that vehicle leaves, that they do have a fit battery.
Yeah.
It's going to happen without the battery. So
And, and almost more than likely, I'm sure it's less expensive to buy a battery at that shop than it is somewhere along the edge of a road.
right, yes, I'm sure it is. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate your time on the podcast today. Once again, everybody out there, it's Jay Philbrook, Philbrook at midtronics.com, or you just call the company 800
Yeah.
776 1995. Say, hey, who's my local distributor? I want to get one of these tools. I guess that's
We'll be
it.
glad to help you.
Yeah. All right.
For additional automotive resources and exclusive content, follow us on Spotify and subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all our episodes. Thanks again for joining us in the driver's seat, and we'll see you next time for another thrilling episode of Top Shop.